Hopefully every year. Just get something out.
Great. Well, welcome.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's great to all be together tonight. As is our habit, we will start with our review of the minutes. Unless, Katie, is there anything in terms of the agenda you wanted to review before we get started?
No, I was just gonna put it up there to kind of show the order of events.
Great. Thank you. Well, since we just did some introductions, is there anyone else who didn't get introduced that I might not be able to see from the Zoom?
No. Should we introduce ourselves to our guests?
I think that would be great.
Thanks for the delay in introductions.
So
Also-
I'm Mona and I'm a board member. Nice to meet you.
Olivia and Turbo, and we're temporary secretary taking notes.
I'm John Brown. Camden.
I'm Katie, Climate Natural Resources Manager and Staff Liaison for our tree board.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Brennan Hunter, and I'm currently the tree board chair.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm on the tree board. Thanks for having me. Sorry I can't be there in person, you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Taking it personally.
No, don't. Please don't. I have a dog,
Aw,
so that's part of being at home. I'm also going to eat dinner really quick, but I'll come back on camera in a bit. Thanks, guys.
yeah, it's great to have everybody here. So our next item of business is to review the minutes from October and perhaps entertain a motion to adopt those minutes, if anybody is ready to do that. To make that motion.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay. Minutes adopted. So that brings us to public comment. So is anyone here to comment on items that are not on the agenda?
Always hard to tell where folks will show up. We had a couple folks say they were gonna do public comment, but we have gotten this
Email.
the comments online, and we can talk about those in some of the later agendas on the tree code review as well, and in the staff updates. But Jonathan, unless you have
Nothing particular, no,
say,
not right now. Thank you.
So we're talking about the public comment from the email later.
yeah, that one
Okay.
relates to part of the tree code review.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, great. Then I think it's over to you, Katie and Alfred.
Okay. Well, I was wondering, because we have Andy here, if we would want to do the proposal first, and then we can do staff updates to not waste any more of your time tonight. If you're ready.
I'm ready.
Sweet. Well, take it away.
Paper, I'm sorry, I didn't know if there would be digital here. We have a proposal currently through Milwaukie Parks Foundation and with Dan.
Could I set some context real
Oh,
quick?
yeah.
So obviously Andy's gonna present the project, and our city manager, Emma Sager, her authority is to review our special use permits and event permits that come in through the city, and get staff proposals or staff recommendations on that, and then kind of make decisions. And so when this proposal came up, Emma asked that internally on staff, our urban forester Alfred, as well as our parks and green space development manager Adam Moore, give their recommendations, and then also that Andy come to tree board to share his proposal and get tree board's recommendation. So after we hear the proposal, I'll jot some notes down on what y'all's kind of general takeaway and recommendation is to the city manager. And then ultimately, the decision is Emma's, but she'll be informed by staff and tree board.
So wait, Emma's gonna receive multiple proposals to review and then she chooses the ones that she wants to submit?
No, sorry. So it's the proposal is just from Dan and the Milwaukie Parks Foundation, this joint proposal. So it's just the one, but she'll receive two recommendations, one from tree board and one from staff on their thoughts or modifications to the proposal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then Emma will make the decision whether that proposal is approved or not. Cool. Thank you.
So I don't know if you have Google maps up here, but if it might help for context on the tree that we're talking about. In Milwaukee Bay Park, there's one tree that's about 80 feet tall, a coastal redwood. It's been the mayor in Milwaukee Parks Foundation's idea for years to try to light this tree up, both for Christmas, but also throughout the year. They requested that we put together a proposal that included programmable LED lights, so we can change that throughout the year. Use it as something the mayor likes to call the bat signal. So it's whenever it's on, we know that there's an event in downtown and it's to try to draw attention. We had initial proposals of like $120,000 to do this from companies, so we thought we could do it less expensive, and we've got that down to about under $10,000. Yeah. So what we're doing, there's not really a protocol for it. So a lot of this has been talking with manufacturers and looking through concepts of how we can do this safely without hurting the tree. Lighting, I'll show you this if you want to pass it around. This has our lighting calculations, which shows both string distances, approximate height of them. And the goal would be to go to the top of this coastal redwood. And after talking to many manufacturers, we settled on something, not necessarily this specific product, but this concept. And what it is are straps that are used for tree swings that don't damage the tree. They have a protective, it looks like steel wool, but it's more like a carpet that wraps around. The strap goes around that. And then we would be connecting the lights to those straps at the top of the tree, and then to similar straps down lower on thicker branches at the bottom of the tree. And then running the lights up and down through those, through eyelets or carabiners. The reason is giving it, and so it's not tensioned, so it can move with the wind without hopefully damaging the lights or damaging the tree. I have the information on the lights themselves here, along with a sample of lights that Alfred had asked me to bring. These aren't the exact lights. These are very, very similar. The difference is how close together they are. These are every inch or so. What proposing is closer to 6 inches. These put off at full power, they would put off 7 to 10 lumens per light, which is extremely low. With these, we would actually be running them at about 20% power, which means they're going to put off 1 to 2 lumens per light. Alfred was concerned originally that the different color lights and the duration of lights could affect the tree during winter months. So that's why we went through these calculations and then looked at the different color variants to see if there are any particular concerns. Due to how low the lumen count is on them, I think that Alfred can speak for himself, but I think we came to the conclusion that it's so low it really shouldn't have an effect on the tree. Our proposal would be shut these off by like 10 o'clock at night to avoid light pollution. So they would only be going on from dark until around 10 o'clock. It's all pre-programmed. We already have power we put in the park for this. We have a pathway to trench over to the tree, and then trying to get the county and the building official to agree on how we can put our power up about 15 feet in the tree to keep it away from people but make it safe. And we have 2 different options we're looking at with them. Really on that, it's going to be up to the county and the building official to decide. Neither of them attach with fasteners to the tree. It would be either suspending them with a strap or suspending it with a post that would be installed at the base of the tree and 15 feet tall. Our preference is not the post, because that would then be drilling right at the base of the tree. The conduit option would be around a 2-inch conduit, which we would have to trench about a foot down to get that over there safely. We feel like a foot deep is going to be pretty safe for the tree, for the conduit path getting there. Completely open to suggestions on any of this or recommendations.
Who asked you to look into this idea? I guess that's my kind of first
It
question.
was a conversation with the Milwaukie Parks Foundation and the mayor that initially started this.
Did they have a reason why they wanted, why they wanted to light up a real tree versus just like where I grew up was similar by water, and they just had like a, you know how there's like that floating dock right down there at Milwaukie Bay Park? They had something like that, and they just put like a pole on it with the lights on it, and then we wouldn't be.
This looking.
Yeah, it looked just like that, and it was like floating on the, on the dock, and that wouldn't like, I feel like this might hurt animals or something that might be nesting or living in that tree. This feels very, I don't know, to me, very invasive. It's just my opinion. Like, I know there's like a lot of, animals that nest in, especially in a tree that big. There's like a lot of habitat in there, and just seems like we're gonna be bothering them.
Hey, is this the tree board meeting? Do you guys mind if I sit in on this? I just want to hear. Just here to listen gaming with
Hi,
Anderson Landscape
welcome.
and Tree Service.
Yeah.
Here in Milwaukee, some of you have probably heard my voicemails or on my feedback. So I just wanted to come and, hear you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, the light pollution is a real thing, it's particularly for
Birds,
migrating
yeah.
birds at night, and especially in such close proximity to the water. There's a reflective property of the light onto the water. So that's a potential issue for sure.
Yeah.
To answer your specific question,
Yeah.
on nesting, these are one of the smallest strands that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be running, I think we have 20 or 30 have it in there, which, to put it in perspective, what they do on the downtown tree for the Christmas tree lighting is significantly more
Right.
invasive than that.
I mean, I believe that you've done like your serious due diligence, figuring out like the least invasive way to do it. I just, I don't know, like the light pollution thing, and then I don't know, just we're getting up into that tree, and we don't know what lives in there.
Where's this $10,000 arriving from?
We have grant funds that we're pursuing for that. As far as your question on getting up into the tree, we have a licensed arborist who looked at it. We actually called your company too and turned down the project. So we've had a total of 3 licensed arborists look at it. And as part of this, there's a lot of dead at the bottom of the tree and a lot of hazard branches up in the tree. So as part of this proposal, we would be trying to make this tree safer for the park and for its health. There's been a lot of damage lower to it. It's overgrowing that lower base. That accounts for about half of our budget for this
Oh,
project.
it's just for,
Is just
trimming it,
trimming
yeah.
and maintaining the tree.
okay.
Because it's been so neglected for so long,
Mhm.
we feel like this is a great way to bring attention to it and ensure that it's being maintained. As
Okay.
far as the light pollution, your average headlights are anywhere between 3,000 to 7,000 lumens. This tree, as you can see, is about 30 feet from 99E. All those lights on all those cars are putting out thousands of times more light than what this will put out. This we're only proposing to turn on for holidays and events, not year round. So to be honest, this is a lower light pollution than what your downtown, what your highway is doing, what the street lights and the lamps in the park are. Your lamps in the park are probably up to around 1,000 to 3,000 lumens, and those are right around the base of the tree.
So how's the install going to take place?
The install will be a combination of climbers and a aerial lift. So we would have climbers with our licensed arborist up at the top of the tree. And then we have an aerial lift manned by construction personnel at the bottom that will run lights and material up and then back down. That way our climbers up and down the whole time.
Okay, and so the aerial lift is gonna reach the top of this tree?
We have aerial lifts up to 200 foot in boomstick. So this will be a big one.
Okay, and so now the strapping that we're talking about, this is talking about strapping to the branches?
So on these would be going at the top of that redwood. There is not one top, there's actually two,
Yeah.
it's split, which is, we've had different recommendations of what should be done about that. Those would be installed vertically on it. So if it's going up, we would wrap them around vertically and then they would hang down. From there, we can use either spreader bars or wire to spread those lights out and then attach them to that bar.
So at the top of the tree, this strap that I see, on the paper, there's two of them, but at the top of the tree, there's gonna be more than two. There's gonna be 360 degrees.
Mhm.
So maybe 12.
I think I'm probably thinking more like 4 or 5, because those have a 2,500 pound weight limit. We're talking about a total of maybe 300 pounds of lights for the tree total.
So who's gonna replace it when the tree grows?
We have a budget for 2 years to go out there and check the lights, check the tree, loosen straps. At that point, if we don't have funding to keep the program going, we would remove it. And that's all in the budget that we already have. We could do that earlier. So if we find that there's issues, if we have lights breaking, things that are problematic, we have that funding already ready to go. Milwaukee Parks Foundation will have that as part of the grant. Move it.
So if we have a light break, so we're talking about like 4 strands or some number of strands, like in the illustration.
It has a total count on our proposal right now, and it is. I'll have to get confirmed. Total count on that.
12 strands. It's not important how
12
many.
to 20, I think, 32, sorry, 32 strings.
And these are gonna be individual legs that are originating from the top and coming down.
They come in a spool of 1,000 feet. So we'll be running them up and down,
Okay.
and then based on the programming module, we're still going through the line loss on it to determine how often it'll be that will go back to the controller. But there'll be, I think, 2 to 3 strains per controller.
And they're gonna be at the exterior of the canopy.
Yeah, we would be going up to the top, clipping them, and then running them out to the base to some of these wider, thicker trees. And then using a similar system to attach a strap and a hook at the base on those branches.
Okay, so in between the top and the bottom, there's no attachment.
We don't need attachment. If you wanted attachment, we can add attachment. And that's where we're hoping for some feedback from the tree board is.
My question is, so when one of these 32 vertical strands fails,
Mhm.
or a light fails, or some kind of thing happens, because it will happen.
Mhm.
And we put this on the exterior of the canopy, which is difficult for a climber to reach,
Mhm.
potentially, depending on where it is. And we potentially need a 100-foot boom lift to reach it instead, if we can't reach to the exterior. This is a big undertaking to fix a light.
Great
This is a
question.
big light bulb to change.
Great question. So the controller gets mounted 15 feet off the base of the tree. All the wires return to the controller.
Mhm.
And because none of them are positively connected, meaning they just loop through the strands, we can go at 15 feet with a ladder, attach a new strand to that strand, and just pull it through the hooks back up into the tree. No need for lifts.
Okay. I just like, I'm representing the reality police today because like I pull strands through things like this all the time. And it's really, there's the likelihood of things going wrong is very high.
Mhm.
The likelihood of pulling it through from the ground, like you just described, I would just go buy a lottery ticket instead. It's very low probability that that's going to succeed. So I'm concerned about, like, it's a cool idea, but I mean, well, I don't really personally think it's a cool idea, but it's like, if I had $10,000, this is not what I'd spend it on, to be frank. And, and secondarily, like, why do we need we need a bat signal to tell people that it's Christmas? I mean, or that it's like, summer solstice. I think that this is like a solution in search of a problem. And And in so doing, I believe it's going to create more problems or create the foundation or the conditions for more problems to occur. Like, oh, we forgot, like we didn't get the grant for the third year. And so we didn't work on it. And now the redwood, you know, grew into the strap. And now we have to send someone up to the top and or like one of the multiple tops breaks or a branch breaks. And then there's the pruning, like we're gonna spend $5,000, half of the budget. We're gonna spend $5,000 on the pruning. First of all, I don't trust anybody who's not me to prune a tree because the bad workmanship that exists in the field is immense. And the chance, like, so what could go wrong with that? A lot of things. And like there's a really good chance that we get this tree pruned overly aggressively, or we get it thinned out too much, or lifted too much, or wind thinned, or there's all sorts of like bad practices that can take place. And this tree, as you say, has been neglected. That is, like, nobody's done anything to it, and that's probably one of the best things to happen to this tree in its life. So we have a chance to we have like a really we have a chance to in order to do this correctly, what you're talking about, everything has to go right. We have to have the right operators, the right installers, the right equipment, which I'll give you that. You've done a lot of research on that. But then we have to have the right conditions, like environmental conditions going forward. We have to get the grant again or find money. Everything has to go perfectly. And so in order for me to personally feel good about this, I'd have to live in an alternate reality where everything goes perfect. Like where like ball bearings never fail, but that's not the reality we live in, right? We live in the reality where trees move around, branches break, you know, wires get tangled up, the wind blows, things get, the way that the wind can move things around and tie stuff into knots, it's insane. And I just think that this is a good way to waste $10,000 and get a kind of cool effect for like a season or two, or maybe like a holiday, and then have a bigger problem occur. And now we've got to bring attention to this tree in not the best possible way. And I'm also speaking not just from I'm not just like spouting out words from my face parts, but also from experience, because like I've been involved in these types of projects in the past. And like, so I've also seen like the way that things can go wrong in this specific type of project. And, you know, when you bring up like, okay, we're going to have to trench to get the conduit, and like, oh, we're only going to trench a foot down. Okay, well, we're going to encounter roots. Like, we're absolutely going to encounter roots. So like, how are we going to mitigate that? And like, we're going to have to like attach this box 15 feet in the tree so that nobody can go screw around with it. But people are going to screw around with it. Like, it's just like, I'm picking up a lot of fantastical thinking. And I don't mean that as a personal insult. I just mean that as like, this is my feedback.
Thank you.
End comment.
If I heard you correctly, I'm just gonna repeat back some of the questions I heard in
Yeah.
there. One is concerns on how to replace strains and issues that you go in. Another is a maintenance budget.
Yep.
Another is why do we need it at all? Another is arborist of choice. Another is grant for ongoing use. Experts on the project. $10,000 wasted. And root mitigation. Does that summarize all your concerns?
Yeah, I think so. And I think just the final like thing that kind of sums it up is and this I just have to call like Mayor Beatty and talk to her about this. Like, Milwaukie, the city of Milwaukie, previously Mayor Gamba has declared a climate emergency. And so if we're in a climate emergency, like, and this is something we'll talk about in a later agenda item about tree removal, like, if we're really in a climate emergency, if that is a declaration that actually means anything, then we should, any kind of money that flows our way or any kind of tree related activity should be related to addressing the climate emergency, not addressing like creating an 80-foot Hallmark card. Like, we don't need that. Like, and so this is a situation where, like, if we are really caring about trees, blah, 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 which is what people say, this is either, at best, it's just kind of neutrally like a kind of a net nothing, like, oh, we just like spent $10,000 for nothing at best. And so, but the chances of it going backwards are high. So it's like, this is sort of a bigger picture of like the reality of our time here on planet Earth, is that like shit's fucked up. And if shit's fucked up, like maybe we should fix it instead of like fucking some other shit up. End comment too.
So to add to the list of other concerns, it was, this doesn't address the climate emergency and concerns with the funding source.
Correct.
Okay, I can answer all of these.
Wait, before we do that, I know Kathleen's traveling, so I'm gonna jump in a little bit more, maybe as the facilitator. Alexis, you've had your hand up for a while.
Not too long. No, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. Uh, John, I'm grateful that you're there because you have a lot of like experience in this. Like you said, like you've seen these projects go wrong in ways, and I really value that expertise. And I will like confess or be transparent that my initial reaction was like different than yours, John. And not that you're the only one in the room. And I know you and I have disagreed in friendly ways in the past, so I'm not worried about it tonight. I see you giving a thumbs up. I think for what it's worth, one thing that I thought was interesting about this is okay, I'm gonna draw a very brief parallel, like bird watchers versus like the intro into bird watching is bird noticing is the joke. And like I started noticing birds and now I care a lot more about birds. And I think that if we could think about parallels from community outreach as far as taking note of trees in our community that we like or that we gather around or that we celebrate, I think that that can be a point of gathering in a way that might allow us, if anything, might allow us as tree board or the city as tree code implementers to like get the word out about code and tree related resources and things like that. And so that was sort of my initial concern. And I think I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but the person who's been speaking, who you've done a lot of research, and I appreciate that, particularly regarding the light pollution. Um,
All right,
I
good
just
night.
I just drove home the other day and passed the property in a pretty affluent neighborhood that had about 60 trees with lights all along the trunk pointing straight up into the trees to show off all of these trees. And I was thinking about that for wildlife. And so I would say, by comparison, this sounds better. And I kind of like the community aspects of it. But I would want anything that moves forward to be reflective of some of John's input, particularly around like arborists of choice, having assurance about long-term maintenance and making sure that there's a contingency plan for things that go wrong in the eventuality that things do go wrong, because as John said, they will. So I hope that's just my more long point
Also,
than
Murphy
necessary
said that.
difference of opinion. Thanks.
Ye-
So my initial reaction was very favorable. I thought it sounded like a good idea, not knowing anything about trees.
Such a poison.
Super, it's just super exciting. I was in London last Christmas and the lights and, imagine they're talking about lighting up Main Street and the tree. It just, it's just really, it can be super magical. And building of communities. I think as the City of Milwaukee Tree Board, we don't get to choose how other people spend their money. And in fact, that's your personal opinion.
100%.
You know, and so I'm gonna try to, confine my remarks to about the tree. So if in fact it would damage the tree, which frankly I hadn't even thought that it would, that's one thing. It sounds like the only potential issue is perhaps that I've heard so far is trenching through the tree roots. Such a large tree like that, I know I wouldn't be concerned about it in my own yard, but I am not an expert the way John is. And it sounds like the other concerns that have been raised here are frankly not concerns of the tree board. We don't decide how other people spend their money. I'm not sure if we should be involved in, nixing it because of the potential climate impacts. I think before we did that, we'd want to hear, I'm sure these are LED lights, very low energy, what that impact might be. It doesn't matter that you don't have a long-term maintenance plan. You don't need one. You have a plan for the life of the project, which is 2 years. At the end of 2 years, if you don't have money, you take it down. So it's immaterial that there's no long-term plan for the tree, for the lights. So I don't see any problems with it. I think it sounds like a great idea. We have to be cautious. We have to use the right arborist. John, you said you wouldn't trust anybody but you, but certainly you are not doing all the pruning in the entire world. So the fact that you're not doing the pruning.
And I talked to Angie and I turned it down, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's again, not a reason to not,
You're correct. You're raising some really good points.
anyway. So that's my comment. So I remain positive about the project.
I guess I'm the next one to talk. I'm kind of so on the idea itself. Lit up tree is nice, but it's not, maybe it's less for me. As for the comments or the concern about budgeting being outside of our purview, I think in general is the case, but I could see a world where the natural spot for council to look for funding for this would be perhaps the tree fund, which we do have a little bit more purview of, which maybe they come to us then for that, but they frankly don't have to. They probably would, I trust them, but you never know in 4, 5, 10 years. I do have hesitations on the same thing with your arborist choice, maintaining the tree, as well as light pollution, although that's more just my gut reaction, but I don't really have a strong enough base of knowledge of how much light pollution is too much for birds. The numbers sound fine, but I'm just ignorant enough to believe any numbers are thrown at me. So I suppose I'm kind of just lukewarm at whatever that means.
Thank you. Is it all right if I respond to a few of these questions?
Anything from Alfred?
Also, Kathleen has come off of mute a couple of times.
Thanks,
Kathleen, if you want to go
Alexis.
first, I can wait.
Oh, thanks, Alfred. Yeah, I was just going to note that there is a wide range of and I'm wondering, just looking at the time and the other items on our agenda tonight, if we could just maybe any final comments. Alfred, definitely want to hear from you, and then Katie, unless there's anything else. It sounds like there's definitely a lot of feedback for Emma and a lot to consider. But otherwise, maybe we'll try to wrap this item up and get to the next one on our agenda.
That sounds good. Sorry.
So
Okay,
busy.
so I guess time for my comments. I agree with John in the fact that this could be a difficult situation. This tree, where it's at its height, to do that maintenance in case something goes wrong, we're talking about a significant operation. On top of that, these trees are quite sensitive to artificial light, and though the lumens might be low, just the actual total quantity of lumens that the light will present will cause the tree to react in different ways, increasing growth, interrupting its cycle, making it more susceptible to winter damage as the tree doesn't realize how it's going to prepare itself and start making all of those changes to become more resilient to weather. At the same time, I know that cities have been lighting trees and it's something that engages community. It's seen as a positive thing. I think it might be, I would be able to digest it a lot more if it was for a smaller tree, let's say downtown, where if something does go wrong, maintenance or responding to that issue could be quite easy compared to figuring out how are we going to get back up into this redwood, doing all of these concerns. I understand at the same time that the redwood is being elected because it's kind of right at the main traffic way. I think the same kind of effect could be achieved by having a sign or holding events, and you'd be able to bypass all the issues associated with getting the lights up on these trees, at least on this redwood.
Thank you. Is it okay time for me to respond to a few of these?
As the chair, up to Kathleen.
Kathleen?
Kathleen, do you mind if I can summarize my responses pretty quick to, I think, capture all of these concerns?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't we give you a few minutes and then maybe we'll try to wrap this item up in about 4 minutes or so. And I'll just keep an eye on the time and give you a gentle note when we get close to that.
Thank you so much. First concern, funding source. This is coming out of the urban renewal grants funded by placemaking grants, which are designed specifically to increase foot traffic and community events in downtown. So it's not coming out of tree, it's coming out of a fund designated for this use. It's been voted on by both Milwaukie Parks Foundation and the Downtown Alliance, which represent a majority of the downtown residents and community, and pushed forward by both groups as something the community wants. As far as maintenance, again, we have a 2-year term on this. There's no maintenance from the city. We will go back and review them in 2 years. If they failed previously, we will go in and remove it all whenever it fails. I didn't start out by saying on experts, I'm a general contractor. I design projects much more complicated than this. I am completely confident in my capability and my company's capability to handle the construction side of this safely. We are an expert in this field and beyond. For root mitigation and construction code currently, we're allowed to take up out to 25% of a root zone. We are talking about a 1-inch trench over the distance of about 20 feet of root. When they go to rebuild Milwaukie Bay Park, there is a significant more disturbance. And I'm sorry, but 1 foot deep over 20 feet, to me, from my professional opinion, is completely acceptable in this environment. As far as experts, we did go through all of our local experts. We provided you an opportunity, you declined. We provided 3 different proposals. Happy to let people bid on those or change their mind. For this to happen by December, we would need somebody who can do it that quickly. Somebody can meet the budget that we have 2 bids or 3 bids that substantiate that budget. We're happy to look at an alternative arborist. Alfred's agreed to meet our arborist of choice on site to go through the trimming before anything happens and to check on us while we go to ensure we stay within those guidelines. And we're asking the tree board for prescriptive guidance on what you would like to see. Climate change, a lot of what we're doing right now is a combination of effort between DAM and the Elk Rock restoration efforts through Milwaukie Parks Foundation. We have multiple programs that we're partnering on, including a QR code, walking tour that talks about history and the nature of Elk Rock in downtown, planting seedlings in downtown to then move out to Elk Rock Island. We have a $50,000 grant that we got to go restore and work on invasives on Elk Rock Island. So this very much is tied to our work between DAM and the Milwaukie Parks Foundation to try to maintain our parks and our green spaces that currently aren't being maintained. So concerns about us spending money not on the parks is actually opposite. What we're doing is trying to bring more attention, more money to one of our greatest resources, which is our green spaces in downtown Milwaukee. I think I covered all of the concerns, except for the light pollution. Again, I encourage you to do math. 1 to 2 lumens, 3,000 lumens. 7,000 lumens on a car. You're talking a magnitude of, if we have all of these string lights, we might have a couple thousand lights that will put out less light than one of these, or than one of a car headlight driving by. One. And what we're doing, supposedly combined. So while light pollution is real, doing very short durations, only at night, only during holidays, is less impactful than what we're doing around it already. I understand anything's more, but again, one light bulb, one car. Totally. Thank you. Any other questions I can answer?
Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. And I know Katie, if there's any follow-up for the tree board, please let us know. And yeah, we're grateful to have been able to have the conversation and to hear the very diverse and wide perspectives across the tree board. So I think it'll be a lot for you to talk about with Emma. But thank you so much.
You appreciate your time and consideration.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks.
I'll leave these for you. Just let me know if you have any questions.
Good.
Thank you, Andy. Travel safe.
So Katie, to you and Alfred for staff updates.
All right. And I guess,
Weren't we supposed to give like a recommendation on that?
well, I was just thinking,
I don't know what we are recommending really.
my take is that I might summarize the different perspectives that we held here and then present them all. If folks are comfortable, I'm happy to share the, trying to balance it with meeting law, share the, what I put together as the summary of notes, with you all. I don't know how to do that and be compliant, so I'm kind of looking at Kathleen, but like send that around to see if people like have any objections and feel like that's an okay representation for
I
me.
took notes too
Okay,
of what everyone said.
yeah. And then I can share that. How does that sound?
That sounds good. I was going to say in terms of the public record, we could always attach something to the minutes or include it in the minutes. And then we can also maybe just touch base with, is it Scott, Katie, just to
Yeah.
make sure we comply.
So I'll try to send that around to folks either tomorrow or Friday morning and get that to Emma by Friday afternoon.
I think you could also include that, to be fair, like, Mona brings up a really good point that like, I am conservative because I personally have seen a lot of things go wrong, which is not necessarily the perspective of the board. That is just the perspective of me going through life and seeing things that people have done in a optimistic, aspirational way and then forgotten about, or life happened or whatever. So that's just my personal opinion, and let not my conservatism besmirch the
Well,
otherwise.
sure, but I think it is fair to say that we are not all in a unanimous
Yeah.
opinion on this.
Yeah,
So
I think that my
Generally
negativity
sharing the
could be
thoughts.
toned down, you know, because it is just my negative Nancy.
Well, it's not just that it's personal, it's just, it's not tree related.
It's not, it's, yeah,
It's,
totally.
it's not that it's personal, it's that it's not tree related.
yeah, out of scope.
Yeah, so
We
that was my point.
Yeah, it's fair.
Though I really appreciate your thoughts, because I was just like, oh, looks so fun. Without thinking through it.
Sounds like optimistic aspiration.
I think that's a good idea to summarize the general
Yeah.
thoughts to the to
Okay.
Is there a public comment on this?
the public comment period.
We might have to go all night.
Yeah, she wanted to move on, but
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll come back next week. It's a juicy one, boy. Right out of the gate.
For what it's worth, Emma Sager, our city manager, is very easy to get in contact with. So, you know, good advice would email her.
Sorry, pulling up the PowerPoint.
there was someone named Kathleen. Were you able to catch who that person was on Pi? PAI? Did you ask them who they were or what they were on for?
I didn't get anything more than that name. And I see there's another member of the public, maybe David Mealy, who's joined us too, in case those of you in the room can't see that.
Okay, and then we have someone here, Amy, what was her last name?
Bradley.
Bradley, okay. Thank you.
I just did a quick Google search and the last name Pye came up for one of the board of directors of the Milwaukie Parks Foundation.
There's probably someone with.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Nice sleuthing.
That's good.
Well, for staff updates, want to talk about a few things. A couple of them are related to recent tree permits. Let's see, over the last month, the first one relates to the public comment that we received a couple days ago, that we have a development happening here on Harrison and Home that they followed, they have an approved tree permit. They followed kind of all of our tree code. And about 2 weeks ago, the project was ready for their tree removals. This one is one of the middle housing subdivisions. And so I have gotten this confused multiple times, and I made this a couple days ago. The new property number is actually 10610 Southeast Home. It's not the Harrison one. They're adjacent lots. That's my bad. I apologize. So on that lot, there was the removal of 2 large trees. It was a there was a 68-inch coastal redwood, and then there was also a 36-inch Douglas fir that were removed. And we received a lot of community comment about kind of the devastation of seeing those really large trees come down in the neighborhood. So we talk about like the placemaking of trees that folks were
68
really
inches
sad.
is huge.
Yeah.
Why
Under
was
60.
it allowed?
So in our development tree code, we require folks to follow 4 standards: preservation, planting, soil volume, one other. And so during a development, you are allowed to remove up to 30% of the canopy on your property. And then under that, there is a $4,000 fee for every additional 7.5% of canopy you reduce until you get to 0. And so it is a developer's choice if they want to pay remove all the trees on site and pay up to $16,000 of tree removal fees. And then they are required to then plant back to 40% canopy once the development is done. They are, we determine 40% canopy using, we have a mature canopy list that we provide all development. We use 75% mature crown canopy size. And so they aren't being planted at that full size yet. And so it doesn't look like, a lot of folks are like, how could this possibly equal 40% canopy? It doesn't look like it right now. And for specifically that, the redwood that was removed, the arborist who had suggested it, I want to use their words. They had said that this tree is mature for the species. It is in good health and has had fair structure. The trunk splits at 8 feet and 14 feet, creating dominant leaders. Several of the leaders have grafted to each other above the split. Coast redwood is listed as a rare, threatened, or notable species on the city's tree crown reference list. In our firm's experience, the root system can displace buildings and walls and foundations if adequate setback is not provided. To adequately protect both the tree and proposed building from root impacts, I would typically recommend a minimum of 34 feet distance between the face of the trunk and the building. The proposed edge of the excavation for the foundation is 5 feet from the face of the trunk. The site is too constrained to preserve this tree.
How old was that tree? Is that considered old growth, 7 feet across? No?
I think it probably gets 2-3 times thicker than that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still massive, but.
Yeah.
It's about that way across.
Yeah.
Yes. How old do you think it was, John?
68 years.
68.
I like that specific.
So we, this has sparked, city council got a lot of public comment about the, tree removals here and people's frustration, about, how specifically middle housing creates, kind of more dense, plots, sites, and has additional challenges for tree preservation, and they want to see a stricter tree code. They want to see it harder to remove trees during development. So council has this, I mean, we talked about this last month during their middle housing town hall recap. Council asked Alfred and I to look at additional options to what it would look like to change the tree code to make it more challenging to remove trees during development. So we put together a couple recommendations. That's the last agenda item, but that it was a notable time for the last 2 weeks, these tree removals in the urban forestry team.
Well, that's like, I have a physical reaction to somebody cutting down a tree that big. It just,
Yeah.
it feels really upsetting.
How does that size of that redwood compare to the one at Milwaukie Bay Park?
It's very similar.
Similar size. That's
If only they had put lights on it, then we would have cared about it more.
I think this is really notable that they're asking us to do this because there were 2 middle housing developments within a block of my house, of 2 blocks, where they leveled the whole thing, and there were tons of mature trees on both of those developments.
One thing that I noticed when looking at Street View, and also I went and rode by it here earlier, just even though it's tough to tell what it was like if you didn't see the tree beforehand. But I noticed that it's the same development site that a few months ago. I don't know if it's the same people, but neighbors of this came to council upset about the design of the buildings and basically that there was middle housing coming into the neighborhood. That's maybe being making some assumptions based on what they were saying, but it's what at least the cynical side of me is saying. So this feels like, again, being cynical, it feels like just the next step or the next thing they found to fight middle housing with. I don't know these people, they could be totally genuine in this, and it does suck that this tree has come down, but I don't want to open up too big of a can of worms here, but with the tree code, the goal isn't to stop any trees from ever getting cut down. It's to limit and ultimately increase our canopy, not to prevent any trees from getting cut down. And sometimes people are going to pay the fees for it, and they're going to cut the tree down, and it will be a bummer, but
$16,000 seems like not very much money for such big trees.
is that what the official? I couldn't find anywhere in there, but
Feels really low.
that was the number that was listed in the email, but I couldn't see anything specifically.
That's because the permit he described in the development code.
Is that what it was? It was 16? Okay. It does feel like very little.
People can pay to take off all trees on site.
Oh, that's the max limit total that anyone can pay. Oh, okay. So I think there's definitely room for discussion on what the fee is, because obviously it seems like right now where the scenario is or where the fee is at, it's basically it's not talking anyone into being more creative with the site, or just frankly this tree probably would have been just building one or two less houses on it. But really, it's just a matter of here's just the cost of doing business.
Right.
Uh,
And so it's the same, whether it was a bunch of 4-inch dogwoods that provided 100% tree canopy or 100-year-old redwood that provides 100% canopy, it's still a $16,000.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And so we do have in our tree code that replanting requirements, I'm gonna get the language wrong, but it must replace the ecosystem function of the tree that was removed. And I think Alfred and I are doing a more concerted effort to enforce and coach that in the communication around the permit approval process. So that we aren't getting the dogwoods from redwood.
You're gonna have more specific like tree code update
Yes.
ideas later in
Yeah,
your agenda,
yeah.
right? Okay, so I'm
It's just, yeah.
this is a permit. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And that's supposed to say King Road.
No kings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will spell check all of this before
Sacramento.
I put it on public record. And so we have an approved tree permit for 5041 Southeast King Road. And that one, they filed for their, they scheduled their initial tree inspection. And so we know that the work is getting started. And that one does also have a 60-inch DBH red oak and then a 16.5 DBH beech tree that are slated for removal on that lot as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they've already been approved.
That one was approved a while ago.
Remember that guy who just came in and he gave us those figures that each of those trees worth like $400,000?
Yeah.
He did all these mathematical calculations.
What's that guy's name?
I don't
Wasn't
know.
it, wasn't it his? We just.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it was last meeting where.
Yeah, oh yeah, no,
No.
this guy came in and he had done this mathematical calculation of telling us how we're never gonna reach our goal of 40% canopy if we continue to allow these massive trees to be cut down. And that they're worth like $400,000.
I think that is that talk we had last week from public comment, plus the public comments that were in the emails. Like these people are like those individuals, you know, they would like to have a beer with me. They're the canary in the coal mine. Those are the few people who are realizing what direction we're going.
Yeah.
And so like, and kind of see like, oh shit, we're gonna crash. And so like we had the comprehensive plan like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was like, okay, we're gonna have middle housing and we're gonna have tree protection and we're gonna have parking. And it's like this, you can't have it all. And the governor says you can't stop development. We have to build houses. You can't have it all. So like that redwood tree 5 feet from the foundation had to be removed because the foundation was decided to be there. And if we're gonna have housing, trees are gonna be removed. And so like this is the situation. And like we talked about this in the tree board in the way past. We talked about it in the comprehensive review committee. And I brought up these concerns then, and other people brought up these concerns. We thought, no, we're gonna have our cake and eat it too. And now a couple of public citizens are coming around to realizing that it's not gonna work. And they're right. The thing is they're right. And so I don't think like, so council wants to make the tree code more severe. I don't think that this like, this is something you can't do through code. I mean, this gets back to my personal opinions, which are not, you know, which I talked about earlier. This is about culture and values. And like there is no amount of money that will stop those trees from being removed. For a four building cottage cluster, there's no amount of money. You cannot make a fee that will stop that from happening.
They might choose not to do the development if there's a $300,000
They
fee.
might, but I just, like, I've been in this field a long time and like people are gonna cut the trees down.
Yeah.
It's just what's gonna happen because it's a cultural thing. And so like,
Yeah, well, we have a lot more to talk about on some of the suggestions we thought of to get at that, but I do really take your point that there is a culture and education piece that is not part of our current slate of proposals that I think is a really good suggestion. I'm gonna skip the rest
Well
of these.
within our scope, not just your personal opinion.
Can we, because the code is under consideration, can they put a pause on approving more of these giant trees being taken down and like more out or future applications to be paused? No.
Yeah, I mean, these trees meet the requirements.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, they meet the requirements. And so, like, you know, just as a case study, right? Okay, so like 2015, 10 years ago, City of Portland rolled out the first tree code in the city of Portland, or the first comprehensive tree code. The year 2015, the number of tree removals actually increased from 2014. Okay, and in the 10 years since, they have steadily increased. So the code did not decrease tree removals.
Mhm.
You know, the code just specified that it was permitted. And many trees meet the requirements.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of fact that like the code is not the tool to stop that, like, and the code is the last resort. You know, I mean, this is like, and I know I'm taking a lot of time, but this is like the Swiss cheese model or like the upside down triangle, you know, like it's like when you put on your personal protective equipment, that is the last measure of protection. Everything has to come before that of like deciding, is this even a good idea to do this? The personal protective equipment is the last measure. The code is the last measure. By the time it gets to code, it's too late. By the time that the governor has declared middle housing cannot be stopped, by the time we've had the comprehensive plan, by the time the building design has been drawn up, the arborist report is absolutely correct. Like, you cannot have a tree next to the house this big. So there's no choice but to remove the tree. So if we play around with the code, that's fine, but we're playing around with the last step because they've already decided to put the house there.
Helpful context. Kathleen, how do you feel about doing our finally vice chair selection?
A year later, maybe?
I think we should
I-
select that.
Yes.
I feel great about that. And I wonder if probably just to follow a good process, there's no formal process laid out for the tree board. But we probably should invite nominations from the tree board and then take a motion in a second and have a vote once we know who all the candidates are. Although I think, I wish I could see everyone's faces. I know, I think we know who many of us hope the candidate is, but maybe I'll just, with that, open the floor for nominations
I
and
nominate
see where
Alexis. I nominate Alexis. I'll get it.
see where that lands.
I nominate Cam.
Okay, any other nominations?
I nominate Alexis.
So then perhaps what we'll do next is invite Alexis and then Cam to let us know if they accept these nominations and would like to potentially be in the running for vice chair. So Alexis, let's go to you first and then to you, Cam.
I would accept the nomination with no hard feelings, Cam, if you want to be in that role or share responsibilities. Sorry for not having tracked this. But cheers, John, for the nomination.
I would accept it as well. Vice chair doesn't really come up that often, so it's not I wouldn't be too tied up on how illustrious of a role it is or it being too much. But
Yeah.
I suppose I feel about as strongly about it as you do, Alexis. It sounds like.
Okay. Katie, could you recap, or maybe Kathleen, could you just recap for us? Is it essentially serving in Kathleen's stead if she's not able to attend the meeting? So essentially managing the time during a meeting?
Yeah, there's a Go for it, Kathleen.
You might have a more formal answer than I do, Katie, but yes, Alexis, that's it. And then sometimes there's been, it's been a while, but there were subcommittees and sometimes other meetings that the chair gets invited to that if I can't attend, it would be great if the vice chair could attend.
Got it.
Yeah, like the interviews for tree board candidates, the annual presentation to council. And then I typically try to check in with Kathleen on the agenda creation each month.
Got it. That hasn't changed how strongly I do or don't feel about the position. I'm perfectly comfortable running meetings and glad to attend extras. And Cam, whoever between us gets selected in this highly competitive race, the other of us can be the vice chair.
Are we gonna have election interference monitors?
I'm gonna listen while I finish cooking right here. Thanks, guys.
I feel like anyone's gonna really have strong feelings voting wise, so how about Alexis can just do it and that'll make it easier for everyone. Congrats, Alexis.
Thanks very much, you guys.
Okay, I love that. And just so that we're in compliance with our public meeting rules, perhaps we could have a motion and a second, and then we'll vote. And then we'll congratulate Alexis again.
I motion that we vote on Alexis becoming the new vice chair of the tree board in the year 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's do it.
Aye. Okay, congratulations, Alexis.
Thanks, guys. Sorry I can't be there to accept the illustrious honor in person.
Fabulous. I can stop now holding that on like
Yeah.
our past, what are we in November? 11 agendas. Okay, so we've already talked about this a bit. Let's see. So council has asked us for Tuesday, December 2nd to present on our tree code. And specifically, they've asked staff to identify opportunities in the tree code to A, make it easier to remove trees that are posing infrastructure damage when it's not related to development. So when this is a private, non-development permit and it's buckling the sidewalk or causing damage to a driveway. And B, identify opportunities to make it more challenging to remove trees during development, which we have talked about a little bit. So before we dive into some of the options, high level, I think it would be great to start thinking about how the tree board kind of wants to support this effort in addition to giving recommendations. I think when we talked about this last time, July 13th, Alexis had brought up potentially having the tree board write like a values letter of like what kind of the values of the code, the values we had designing the code originally, and kind of like an education opportunity for community as this goes to council. And also invite you all to join or tune in on December 2nd. And also public comment is an option there as well. So when we talked about this in July, we haven't had the recommendation from council yet on the development side and making it harder. So we had really focused on recommendations to make it easier to remove around infrastructure damage. And that one of the pieces that our code says is you can remove the tree posing infrastructure damage unless there is a reasonable alternative construction technique. And council in July, when we were talking about this with them, they were really hung up on that term reasonable and how there's a very large difference between like financial difference between what currently staff are saying as like reasonable alternative construction techniques versus are like average residents and what they assume to be reasonable. So you all suggested that reasonable should be defined as an industry standard of care, meaning that multiple professionals in the same field with the same training come to the same conclusion. So three arborists go to the site and say, yes, an alternative construction technique is to use XYZ. And then also potentially list those common alternative construction techniques in the code. Not an exhaustive list, but the most common that homeowners are expected to do before removing a tree, so that it would be a lot more transparent. I think those are great suggestions. I think Alfred and I's plan going into council is likely list a more exhaustive list with kind of the pros and cons and get a sense of where and get council's direction. And so this isn't going to be like a red line prescriptive list by any means that we're bringing in December. With that, Alfred, are you in a good spot to run through the things you have put together?
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
first? Sorry, Alfred. So are we really looking to make it easier to remove trees that are causing problems, or are we making it easier to make consistent decisions on tree removals?
We are, council wants some options to make it easier.
Okay.
I don't know if
Okay.
this example or this suggestion gets at that, but I think one of the implied takeaways was that that was not the suggestion of the tree board.
Okay. Because when we talked last time, I thought we were talking about ways to make it easier to make consistent decisions on
Yeah.
trees, not ways to make it easier.
Yeah.
Changes to make it easier.
I think that's the most we were willing to give.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly.
And Alfred, we didn't leave you a lot of time to zoom through all your great options and leave time for discussion. So if we can go as quick as possible.
Unfortunately, I'm kind of in a situation where I can't really have the microphone on
No worries, I got it.
for a lot, but I was able to put it in the chat, kind of extra information, and it can help that way.
I'm so sorry. Excuse me.
Go away, AI.
We'll keep it up on the side as I go through the, oops. We need to replace the batteries in this mouse. So here are a couple suggestions we've put up so far around making it easier to facilitate the removal. One is, so this one continues with the criteria for allowing one free healthy tree removal to be removed per tax lot once a year. Currently, the tree needs to be under 12 inches, and it's approved as like kind of your one free healthy tree removal. We could increase the we could say 2. We could increase the size DBH of that. And so it could give people, sometimes if we're like, no, that doesn't meet an infrastructure damage criteria that we have, but it is under 12 inches. So you can just use it as your one free removal, and residents are like, yeah, okay, I'll take that. And so it could facilitate the same goal for the resident potentially. Another option is to add so recap quickly, we have a type A permit that is an allowed tree removal. So that's dead, dying, diseased, that's trees posing significant infrastructure damage. Type 2 or type B is when they're deemed healthy and it doesn't meet any of the criteria where we would say that it could be approved, and so it has a higher fee. So an additional type A criteria could be a distance from an infrastructure, or a dwelling unit. So for example, 10 feet is what the city of Portland uses. And so that's saying like we saw in this other one, a tree will likely cause infrastructure damage and might not be like all that suited, to be that close to a dwelling unit. We could also, so another example that we could take from the city of Portland's tree code is that if we would approve a tree removal if it has shown, if there's documented instances of like repairing the infrastructure, and we use sidewalk in this example 3 times. And if you have done that repair 3 times and the tree is continuing to like the kind of showing the alternative construction techniques are not helping or sufficient, then it would be approved for removal. So and then provide the clarity to what reasonable construction techniques are, and then listing out, we won't go into all of these, but listing out what that means and providing an example, some stated examples of what are expected alternative construction techniques within the code. Examples include. So then we get into the development. Do we want to pause there or go through them all?
We just gained an hour. We could go. It's for the trees.
Okay, let's keep going. So suggestions to deter removals. So we could, we were talking about how there are those set fees, but those set fees don't discriminate between the size of the tree or not. It is about the overall site canopy percentage.
Or the size of the lot, like if somebody came in and completely denuded that 3/4 acres on Kellogg Creek. Of course, there's the natural overlay that would go into effect, but the other part could be denuded and it would cost the same $16,000 as it cost to denude a 5,000 square foot
Correct.
lot.
Yeah. Yep. So it doesn't distinguish between size of lot, size of tree. So we could put have an additional fee
Per inch.
yes, like over 30-inch DBH or something, then it racks up a higher cost.
Or higher for lot sizes.
Yeah. Another option is something that came up in this case, that our code refers to a rare and threatened tree list. And then in our fee schedule, it has a higher cost for that. So if it is a rare and threatened tree, it is an additional $250 per inch DBH on top of that tree removal fee.
But that was not applied on that redwood.
Correct, because we don't have currently an approved rare and threatened tree list. And so this is kind of like here, but Alfred and I have already started working on this. We'll have a draft ready for council on December 2nd. And we're planning on having that approved by the end of January. So that things like the coast redwood would, there would be that 16,000, but then that redwood alone would incur, I think it was an additional like 11,600 for that removal alone on top of the 16,000.
Still seems super low.
And is this just by species, or is it going to be like, if it's a heritage tree, it's an additional $50,000? Well, do we need a program and designate some trees that we don't want to have removed ever?
Yeah. So I think one thing that Alfred and I have been toying with is that if there are ways, I mean, a heritage tree program is in our urban forest management plan. So that was called out as like an important way to preserve old growth trees. We do also want to think of a way to have that same impact, but more equitably, because a heritage tree program often we see in places like Portland, the folks that have those designations are in higher income neighborhoods with large growth trees, are like large DBH trees that you have an active neighborhood association and know how to go through government systems and apply for that and like have a lot of attention and capacity towards that versus having those protections baked in to all trees across the city. And so we were thinking about ways to try to integrate those protection standards without necessarily taking on a whole heritage tree program, but I would hear pushback from that heavily.
Pushing basically the risk there I'm hearing is the rich neighborhood can fight any development basically, and all the development is pushed to the poor neighborhoods is an oversimplification,
Yeah.
but
And none of the
difference
trees,
in access.
not like any of the large, beautiful trees in lower income neighborhoods aren't gonna get
I
protected.
see. Okay.
That is a gross over exaggeration, but
Thank you. Okay.
yeah.
I like the standard that if it's above a certain diameter,
Mhm,
then across the board, it's the same rule being
mhm.
applied. And then if there's endangered trees, then they get an extra fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you say Oregon white oaks with DBH greater than 18 inches?
Mhm.
Because the 18-inch Oregon oak is gonna be
That's pretty old.
a couple hundred years old.
Yeah. And I think then the last one is that we increase the cost of, just the standard, like it's 4,000 every 7.5% canopy loss under 30%. I know that's a lot of jumble garbo. We could just increase that like blanket cost, so like 10,000. So just throwing that out there. And kind of a blanket financial increase.
But what about what Mona said, where right now we have it just for like any lot?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't it be based on like square foot of?
Yeah, $4,000 for a 5,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
And so our 34,000 square foot 3-acre lots would be,
Well, for every, right, 5,000 square
Yeah.
feet.
would be
this
7
is
times
the
5.
same. Yeah, times 7.
Yeah. We'll add that. That's a great one to add.
The thing that has come up in a previous discussion about this is additional related to the lot size as well, but that, you know, $4,000 or $16,000 will definitely stop me and my
Mhm.
home lot from proceeding with this work. But as discussed in the public comment provided by email, if we're the developer, we'll just raise the selling price from 400,000 to 404,000 and job done. So like, and related to what you said about the heritage tree thing, this is the same situation. You know, we have a amount of money that is a deterrent to an individual, but is meaningless is like maybe the coffee and donut budget for the developer. So, you know, we're in a real pickle there, you know, and I think that trying to find the amount of money that's going to stop developers is going to be really hard. I mean, we're going to just be like looking around trying 10,000, and then next year we'll be having the same conversation. 10,000 was too much, it was too little, you know.
Are we legally capable of having a different, I'm not sure if it's the right word, but different fee schedule or different set of fees for someone who's doing this, like an owner occupied situation versus just any development?
My understanding is no.
No.
Well, we already have it specified by development, right? But
Well, sure, but like developer, but I mean, I guess you'd have to own the property to
Right.
build something on it.
In this
Like
case,
a
it doesn't,
commercial
Yeah, I don't know.
developer versus a residential developer.
Yeah,
right, but it doesn't really
I
matter.
don't know how you distinguish that legally. Yeah.
Katie,
Go ahead, Kathy.
just a couple of things. The first is that when we were building out the tree code and the fee schedule, there were some reports. I don't remember all the answers to some of the questions about the legal frameworks, but it's possible that if those are still at the city somewhere, those could answer some of these questions because the there were limitations around what is and isn't legal that influenced how those fees landed. That's one thing. And then I know we're just so close to 7. And I always want to be sensitive to Katie and Alfred being here on their staff time. So I don't know, Katie, I know there's still probably more that we could talk about, what you want to get through tonight. So I wanted to leave some space for you to let us know that. And then finally, I just wanted to let you all know that I do have to leave right at 7, leave the meeting. But I did drop Alexis a note in the chat to see if she could step in her new official capacity as vice chair and close it out for us if we go a little bit over. So thank you all. And just, I wanted to offer those notes.
Thank you, Kathy.
Is Alexis back on? 8 minutes ago, she said her internet just crashed.
Oh.
We're not gonna be able to close this meeting.
Shit, you've been open.
Oh, did we ever find out what happened with Wade?
No, but the mayor, I emailed the mayor as the right next step to elevate, and she's been trying to get a hold of him, and then we're gonna touch base tomorrow when we do interviews for the Climate Action Committee.
Hope he's okay.
I know. Sounds like she was gonna do a check on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So without more time, I think the pieces that I'm interested in are if you all have suggestions that are missing, square footage, like exactly that, to please feel free to reach out. And then also if there is a like recommendation from tree board that you all want us to impart in our presentation to them.
I'm still personally really struggling with the increase fee option because I talk about like we're gonna be chasing that number for a while, and I also really don't like the idea of it. The fee goes up to a certain point where it maybe makes a developer question their path, but now someone basically just good luck building an ADU as the person in your own on your own property. And as someone who, frankly, and maybe it's accolade, I find myself more of a housing advocate than a tree guy even. I think someone building on their own property is like a very vital thing for housing affordability. So I really don't, like, unless we find some other mechanism to differentiate those two scenarios, and I really don't know what that is, I'm very hesitant to go up, but there's something has to, there has to be some change.
There's in Portland, there's a lot of policy that's around owner occupied versus non-owner occupied.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's around tree code, but it's around a lot of other code.
Yeah.
I know that for first person.
Yeah. So I feel like there's got to be some creative way to do it, but I just in this hour-and-a-half meeting, I didn't come up with that.
Does not the blanket increase of fees, but the more targeted around DBH size or rare and threatened species class, does that change it for you with like the ultimate goal being protecting a certain type of mature tree versus kind of regular trees?
I feel more comfortable with that. Like the capping at 16K wholesale is a bit troubling for sure. And I don't know, I mean, as was mentioned, a white oak, an Oregon white oak this wide is very different than redwood of the same width, with very different canopy and age and all that.
Just being a little bit of thinking about your concern about owner occupied doing an ADU, they would have potentially more ability to build around the trees on their lot versus a developer who wants to wholesale max out, putting as much as he possibly can up towards she to the edge of the every inch of land on.
They might, but as far as where the zoning rules around building ADUs, you have to be a certain distance from the back fence and the side, and like on my lot, it's not a huge, it's a decent sized lot, but most front yard, so it's useless in this regard. If I wanted to build an ADU, it'd be cutting down a tree that I planted, really. So it's only my own fault.
It's less than 6 inches, so.
Yeah, you're right, it is. But even still, it isn't all every case. It would help. I think someone who lives there is going to have more interest in being more creative about it. But I think there's still a limiting factor there.
We'll look up those documents that Kathleen was referencing. and see where-
Those documents reference like the diameter or the species being an issue. Because the lawyer, the city attorney discussed this, that like, basically this is saying, this is somewhat, it's a somewhat arbitrary, statement that like,
Subjective.
you happen to have bought a property with an oak tree on it, and now you can't develop it.
That's what a heritage tree program is. I'm just taking out the stamp.
Yeah, but the thing, I mean, what Cam's talking about the setbacks, and the thing is like, there's a much bigger, like background situation here, which is all the other codes that like, if we, depending if it's your personal backyard, we're gonna put an ADU, or the large 3/4 acre lot or whatever, like all these setbacks and the requirements for the sewer and the sidewalk and all these things, we're gonna end up removing trees because there's nowhere else to put the house. Or we can put the house here and we could protect this tree if we do everything right, but we can't do everything right because
Life.
we're on Earth, and so we're gonna remove this tree. And like, we have to understand that like the context that we're in. And that because we, and this is, all these other codes are there for their own good reason, right? 5-foot setback, this blah, 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 all these different rules. But like, because of that, you're gonna end up, you can't put the house anywhere, but we gotta put the house somewhere because we're housing, we have no houses. And so where I really want to put an ADU or, whatever, and then the tree's in the way. And that's, the thing is we're trying to protect the tree that's in the way, but we're way downstream. We are way downstream, and that's why we come out looking like weirdos, like tree huggers. Because, but we can't have a tree here because sidewalks and, blah, blah, blah. And this is, my point is it's more than the tree board. Like, council wants to kick this to tree board, but, so we're gonna come up with some solution. It's not gonna change the scenario. It's not gonna change the reality that we live in. To change the reality that we live in, we would have to talk to all the other code makers. All the codes would have to be coordinating in the same direction. They're not. I mean, they're coordinating to put concrete in the right places and to build houses, but they're not coordinating to support and protect trees.
Get on this board, but.
You could take my place.
You think
We have a citywide recruitment effort each year to fill our board and committees. It usually happens in like the springtime, and sometimes there's special recruitment periods if someone steps off like during the middle of their term, which we have a member who is potentially has stepped off, and so we're in the process of confirming. And if we do end up doing a recruitment, the mayor, because everyone here is appointed by the mayor, and so she'll like,
should call the mayor.
yeah.
That's when I talk to her about the light plan, she'll kick me off. So
So stay tuned.
This is like excruciating to sit here quietly. Mind is just like, please.
This was a very exciting meeting.
Yeah.
There are some that are less exciting.
That is an understatement.
Well, although,
We're always talkable,
Yeah.
talkative though, you know that much.
I want to say a positive thing, like to your question, what should we tell council?
Yeah.
And what should we tell tree board, and what should we tell urban forestry? These public comments that came last month and that came this month in the email, like, you gotta get out in front of that, because like, the thing is like, if we're tree people, we have to be doing something for trees, because people out in the world, it's really obvious when we take trees down. Super obvious. I just spent 2 days removing two huge dead elm trees. Super obvious. Everybody sees what's happening. You gotta do things that are visibly present to like show the community, what am I doing that's contributing and that's like actively protecting, and doubling down on being the police, you know, calling the National Guard in to like help protect trees, not the correct answer. Like, you have to demonstrate that you're doing something positive and good and make it visible. And like, because these public comments are coming and they're like, you tree board people, you urban forestry people, you're the problem. It's like, okay, that's true. So you got to show something else. You got to do something that's good, because otherwise you're gonna get, you know,
Yeah, in Portland's urban forestry.
yeah, exactly. You're gonna have a hit piece, just like happened to Jen Cairo.
Yeah, I suppose, again, trying to avoid opening too big a can of worms here, the talk of upping the fee, you know, we have this small tree fund, but in theory, upping that could put more in the tree fund, and that could go to more visible things like more planting efforts.
yeah.
And then like the heritage tree is like an example. That's like a thing, hugely controversial and problematic in its own ways, but like, it's those kind of like initiatives that are like, hey, we're actually doing something. We're trying to do something. You gotta change the narrative.
Okay.
Make people like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic that in one case they're looking to make it easier to take trees down that are impacting infrastructure, and then the next thing is, okay, let's make it harder for developers to take down trees.
The other thing is you can't like, you know, you just gotta like, these codes, like Portland, it's like you try to proof the code, but there's so many ways through it. There's so many ways through it. Like, oh, it's harder to take the tree down for development. So let's just build this right next to the redwood. We'll just build a building right next to the redwood, 5 feet away. And now we got our certificate of occupancy. Shit, this tree, it's gonna hurt the house. Gotta take it down. Done. You know, so you gotta like realize that if you do what the council is asking, you're gonna be like, oh, you can't do it in development, but the day that you occupy, you can remove it. So.
Interesting.
A loophole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Do you feel like you have enough to take to?
Yeah.
I'll take a point then. Okay.
I think just to the idea of like more fees and to then do something public with it. It'd be cool if we could if we could help out more significantly with street tree pruning, and right of way pruning for residential, and like if we had the funds to like actually really support that. That's such a barrier for people to plant more trees, is the ongoing maintenance. So, that's what that thought made me think of. And
People consider trees a hazard and a risk.
Yeah.
Owners,
mhm.
rental property owners.
I think we could close out, and then
Go get a beer.
if you have an informal conversation about what you all thought of your first tree board meeting, that would be very appropriate.
Thank you for coming. That makes it more exciting.
Yeah, I just want to learn a little more about the studying, about the tree code, about and more on the private property piece. I 100% agree with the development piece. Private property piece, I have a totally different opinion, but I'll save that for a later date because it's past the time. But just wanted to kind of get a feel for what happens and how it happens. And, you know, I don't permit every day Westland, Lake Oswego, Portland, Milwaukee, and I'm gonna say, in my personal opinion, for private property, Milwaukee's a shit show. To be 100. I've been pulling these for 20 years with every surrounding city, and it's a little troublesome to see the difference between Milwaukee and every other city in this state. I pull them in Washington.
What's the hardest
All-
part?
The portal now is super simple. It was a little challenging at first, but now it's super simple. I'm just gonna say the realistic cost for homeowners is insane. Insane. I mean, Lake Oswego, it used to be like, oh, Lake Oswego, nobody wants to pull a permit in Lake Oswego. That's a shit show. Now Milwaukee might have them trumped times 10. I mean,
So just that it
it's
costs,
pretty wild.
it costs more to cut.
I have a customer right now. She has 9 huge conifers in her backyard, 2 huge conifers in her front yard. She wants to remove a pine that's ripping up the foundation that holds her upper deck up to keep pruning back the roots. Half of it's black, half of the canopy, the needles on it are turning brown, and it's $4,000. The cost to remove the tree is $3,000, but the city wants $4,000 to remove this tree. That's insane. She has 11 huge conifers on her property. Their vegetation density issue is Portland has one. You go out there, you do a vegetation density report, you say this is what they have, and you take that into consideration. It's wild that that's not an option with Milwaukee, that you just charge somebody. I had a guy a couple years ago who had this, it's borderline, I think you could go back and forth on whether it was just a big shrub or whether it was a tree. And it was right up against the sidewalk, and every time he'd leave his driveway, he got people blowing their horn because he can't see past the tree. So they say half of the tree is on the sidewalk. So the city says you can mitigate that by cutting the sidewalk piece off. But if you don't, the tree, it was like a $600 removal. The city wanted over $2,000 to put a permit on that thing. I'm like, it's a fucking shrub. Are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, no, it's a tree. I mean, the guy almost started crying because he was like, are you serious right now? So I'm going to cut half of it. I'm going to pay to cut half of it, and then it's going to die, and then I have to pay to remove it. It's kind of wild on a private property piece of it. I 100% agree with the development piece. I love trees. We plant them, we replant them. We support all, the canopy, but in reality, the city wants her to plant 3 trees in place of that one. She has 12 huge conifers on a 10,000 square foot lot. Seriously, you want her to plant 3 trees? And if she does it, she pays $1,800? That's wild. So again, that's just my opinion about the private property piece of it. I think it's a little outrageous. I've been pulling them for a long time. We're licensed up in Washington, pull them all the way from Seattle down to Vancouver.
Where's your
Milwaukee.
business based?
Milwaukee,
You're-
downtown Milwaukee.
Okay.
Live in Milwaukee, born and raised in Milwaukee, my business, my houses, all of it, Milwaukee. And to see that code, a 3-year-old code that Portland's been doing for over 20 years. I mean, pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on a couple scenarios. But again, I'm willing to broaden my thinking and my horizon by, sitting in here and hearing feedback. And that's why I was so quiet. 'Cause
Well, you're broadening my,
I just want to hear.
broadening my horizon as someone who's never filed a tree permit. Like I said, I'm not cutting down on my property. In fact, my property had almost no trees on it.
I should try it sometime. It's really,
I
the portal's great.
don't know what tree.
Yeah,
I'm
the board
cutting.
is actually super simple now. I'm very thankful for that because it was kind of, moving.
Happy to see you. Let's close up the meeting.
Oh, I motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you.
Whoops. Who brought the cans?
Thank you.
Where can?
Where are you from, Jonathan?
These are all tight beats.
Yes, but tight beat over 6 inches, like 6 inches, that's a volunteer. Most of the time.
And I'm a new resident to Milwaukee, but I grew up I was born in Salem and